Good morning. Hi, Jeff.
Good morning, Miss Susan. How you doing?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Good. Nervous a little bit. Yeah.
Nervous. I'm nervous. You're not supposed to be nervous. We have some people already in the chat. Oh my God, we're going to have a good day. We're going
Hello, Pearl. Hello,
to.
it's me, Angie Ashley Reed.
We have Pearl. Good morning, my Pearl. How are you, honey? Mwah. And then we have Miss Angie. Good morning, Miss Angie. Mwah. How are you? I didn't get to be on your live yesterday, but I did rewatch it today, and that's awesome. I'm so glad you had so much fun with your grandbaby Blakey. So cute. That's awesome. And then we have Ashley. Good morning, Ashley. How are you? Mwah. Thank you for coming in, ladies. Oh, good morning, Jessica. That's my daughter-in-law. How are you? Mwah. Hope you're well. And then we have Annette. Good morning, Annette. How are you, honey? Thank you for coming in.
Good
I'm just
morning, Miss
looking to
Annette.
see if ever. Oh, Annette, let me turn you blue, honey. And there you go. You are now blue. And then we have, here we go. Miss Ella is here. Good morning, Miss Ella. How are you? As Jeff could go like this, mwah, mwah, but he goes mwah, mwah. Oh. So yeah, we're gonna wait until we have more people coming in, and then we're gonna start our questions. And Jeff said he's nervous, but he has absolutely nothing to be nervous about. Nothing. No.
Questions.
And I
That's
did
all she had to say was questions, right? There you go. Already nervous. That's it.
and I
Gotta
did
have
my
your
due diligence of asking Jeff if there was anything that he didn't want me to touch on. He said no. So guys, when someone says no, it's an open book. It's an open book. Who else is out there? So, how was your weekend?
weekend.
Yeah, the
What
one
is
that
that?
just passed.
No.
You don't know what a weekend is?
Actually, we went to the coin show on Sunday. That was great.
Nice.
She said, "Stop looking at me." See, you pointed out she was over there, so now I want to look over there to her.
So, what is a coin show anyway? What is that?
Coin show. Well, you got different vendors from different areas. Vendors meaning people that sell numismatics, whether or not it be currency or it be coins, and bullion also, because some bullion is also numismatic, which means has a dollar value,
Yeah.
which means from a sovereign country. See, there's a lot of things that once you get going down a rabbit hole, there's
Wow.
so they'll all come together. And actually, I had the president of the West Palm Beach Coin Club and the vice president both approached me this time, recognizing me. And I had talked to them the first time that Ella had surprised me. We went last month. And I passed out some of my YouTube stickers, kind of talked to them some about what I do. And
Right.
they are interested in having me become a member of their club. There's some of their members already have approached me with really high dollar items that they think YouTube would be a good platform to get them showed on, and some other things that I do to sell that they're interested in learning themselves or having me do for them. They've already started trying to give me items that I'm like, hold on, let's get to know each other a little better first and figure out where we're at. Because, well, when you do something like that, you got to make it to where both parties are making money, both
Right.
parties are happy meeting somewhere in the middle. And it's kind of like any other work relationship or relationship outside of work that takes a while to build. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, have you done any videos on like someone like me that has absolutely no idea anything to do with coins? Nothing. And then you take that and you start it from the beginners, uh like a kiss. Keep it simply stupid.
Right. I have not per se just made a video doing it, but I have done live streams, and we do Sunday night dollar race thing that we do, that it's actually just pretty much a hangout, a fun time. People that have questions about coins and things, it's a good time for them to be able to come in there and ask different questions. And people do ask, and they'll ask in the middle of the stream. And that's one of the things about my channel, that we will take the time to answer those questions. And there's people in the chat that have been doing this for years longer than me, that they'll also give you their information that they have. So it gives you it's a good starting point for people. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say that a lot of the other coin channels that are going right now on YouTube actually started on my channel, was the first place that they were ever given the opportunity to come up,
Come
or
on.
had someone sit down with them and be like, okay, I know you're only on a phone. This is what you're going to have to do, because that was me. I started on a phone and a
Mm-hmm.
wonky tablet that got even wonkier after it was dropped 2 or 3 times. And I mean, so
Mm.
I started out with nothing but just this push to do it. And I can explain that more later on if you want me to, but
Yeah, like
there was
I
something
think
that just put it in my life. So
I'd like it if you did like a tutorial. Like, what are you looking for when you first start out? What do you need, or something like that? Just
what you
I
need,
think
the
it's
first
powerful.
thing, anybody that's thinking about getting into coins, the first thing you need to do is buy a red book. You can look it up on eBay or Amazon. Just look up red book. Buy the most current red book you can at the time. Now, every year it's going to update, but in my experience, I buy a red book every 2 to 3 years, because
Well,
it makes no sense for me to get
what
one
time?
every year when there's so very little changes to it. But there's enough changes within 3 years that, yeah, I probably want to update that red book about every 3 years. And that keeps you informed on the mintages, how many has been reported found of this kind of coin, because there's a survival rate, right? I mean, I've got coins from the 16th and 17th century. So there's no, how many of those are still around? You know what I mean? So the red book kind of gives you a guideline on that also. And then there's a thing called the gray sheet that people use also for pricing coins and numismatics on their age and on their mintage. How many was made? That's a big part. How many was made of that coin? How many was, you know,
It
some
sounds like there's
coins
a
there
lot.
was
Just
20 million of, some coins there was only 20,000 of. So
like
the coins that there was only 20,000 made of that year automatically are going to be more valuable,
more
because the
valuable.
chances
Yeah, just
of,
like I'm looking in the chat,
right.
and it looks like Pearl and Ashley, Angie, that we're all on the same boat. We don't understand, but we'll probably get into this a little bit much later. Before we go on a coin extravaganza, let's go on Jeff's extravaganza.
Oh,
Jeff's life. So, Jeff, tell us, where were you born? Where are you from?
where I'm from and where I was born is kind of two different things, right?
Yep.
So I was born in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my parents met and worked together at the Army Air Force Base, Chanute Field. It's been since then shut down, but Chanute Field Army Air Force Base is where my whole existence started, right? So, um, coming into life, kind of different, right? I was a twin. My
Really?
Yeah, my other half didn't survive the birth.
Oh, I'm
So
so sorry.
sometimes people have different ways of dealing with things, and I get it. And at that time my mom was going through a lot of different things, and in that time period they made the choice that I would come live in Missouri with my grandparents. So that's what I did. I was, like I said, I don't remember any of that. Obviously, I was a baby, so I grew up in Missouri, in Southwest Missouri, down by Cassville, which is where I was at when you all first met me on YouTube.
Hmm.
So I, yeah, grew up with my grandparents,
You
and
did grow up with your
yeah,
grandparents. So
my mom and them came to Missouri. I think it was sometime in 78, 79, something like that.
uh-huh.
So they had moved down here a few years after that. Like I said, things happen. Some things happen that I don't understand, and me and
Yeah.
my mom have talked since then, obviously, because when y'all first met me, also, I was actually had my mom living there with me. She's in stage 4 cancer, and I took care of her for years. Uh, and she, yeah, she explained it to me, and I kind of get it. I don't get it because I'm not a woman, and I don't know what that feels like. Although I do know what it feels like to lose a child. So during her grieving process, I'm reckoning is when she just made the decision that that was too much, right? Having the other child just too much. So, um, yeah, they had planned and conceived another child, which is my younger brother, biologically by both mom and dad. I have other siblings that are half siblings that are
Mhm.
older. Um, yeah, they at that point decided they were just going to be coming down to Missouri, and they lived. Oh my goodness, probably within 3 to 4 miles of where I lived,
Okay.
and that was kind of different as an experience of hey, here's your mom on holidays that we come over, 4th of July,
How
Thanksgiving,
old were you?
Christmas, all forever. That's how I grew up.
How old were
And
you
how old was I
when
when they
she
came
came
down?
to? Yeah, when she
Oh
came
my
to.
gosh, I guess I'd have probably been about 3 or 4, something like that.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I
But
was young. I'm a '76 baby, so they came down sometime finally in the beginning of the '80s is when they went ahead and moved down to Missouri.
okay. So you basically were in school, you lived with your grandparents. How were you as a student in school?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have something called dyslexia.
Yep.
Now I know a lot of people joke about it, and we all joke about it, and I joke about it myself. But I like truly have it. All my letters, numbers, everything look like they're swimming most of the time. So I didn't know that as a kid, right? All I
Mhm.
knew was whenever the teacher would tell me to write this down, I would write this down. It would look like this. They didn't know what dyslexia was, and the little bitty school that I was going to school at didn't have anything about that. So I literally would get in trouble every day for writing backwards and
Oh,
upside down and for mixing things up. And by the time I was in the second grade, the teacher was like, look, he's doing it on purpose. And I had got this attitude of, well, I'm not even going to try because if every time I try, y'all are going to get on to me because I didn't know what was going on because I
right.
didn't know what dyslexia was.
Of
All
course.
I know was I would try my hardest and I would just get in trouble for it. So by the time I was in second grade, I'd all but given up on reading and writing because I was like, I'm past that, right? I'm done with you getting on to me every day. I can't
Mhm.
get it. I'm done. Come fifth grade, I think it was fifth grade, starting of junior high, that I had a teacher that came to me, a language arts teacher, and was I knew her son. He was the same age as me. And oddly enough, he was born a year after me, and we
Mhm.
have the exact same name, Jeffrey. So she just automatically like we clicked, me and him. So
Yeah,
we
it's like an
was
attachment. Yeah.
she had got to observing and noticed and talked to other teachers about what was going on, and she had been studying some other things, and she got in touch with a lady that told her, look, this is what's going on with this kid, he's got dyslexia. So they pulled me aside, tested me, did all this stuff, figured out what was going on, and at that point was like, okay, well, we can do this or that. Well, their option to that was I was in all regular classes. I'm a regular person, regular kid. Well, you're going to go to these LD classes for language arts.
Mhm.
And whenever I did, I was in there with a lot of underprivileged people, I guess you would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Handicapped kids. Let's call it what it is. Kids that were had different kinds of disabilities and things.
Yeah.
So we'd spent most of that hour, 2 hours, or whatever that I was in there doing nothing. Literally, we didn't learn. I didn't learn anything about language arts a whole lot
Yeah.
during that time. But then I had another teacher that was like, look, let me spend some time with him after class if he wants. So I would do that, right? So I would go and stay with her at like the public library for like an hour after school.
Okay.
And she would start trying to work with me through these things and started making sense to me about what was going on with me. Because I'm like, why is it when everybody else sees it this way and they're talking about how it looks that way, I can't see that? The
Yeah.
way it looks to me is my S's are backwards, my B's are backwards, my E's. I had to literally grow up training myself to do everything backwards to make all of y'all happy because all of y'all see it that way, right? So
Right.
I have to make myself do everything backwards and try to catch and recognize that, okay, I know for fact that that four isn't supposed to look like an H. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be upright in the other direction. So, and to me, even though I'm making it backwards, I've taught myself to do everything backwards so that it does look semi right, even though it don't crunch together sometimes, right? My writing is terrible, y'all. Terrible. My spelling is terrible. But it's 10 times better than it would have ever been had I not had Miss Cassidy was her name. And see, I don't remember a lot of my other teachers' names, but I remember her
You
name.
do
I
remember her.
had Miss Cassidy and them explain to me and try to teach me through years of taking the time to do so what was going on.
What was going on?
I wouldn't have known what was going on. All I've known was everybody's mad at me because I write funny. I don't know what is going on that I can't do what everybody else does, but it's way different, right?
That's awesome that, that first teacher actually opened up the door for you to get with someone that you really needed.
Because the ones prior to that, like I said, I can't tell you their names, but I know this. I got SWATs. Back then you had SWATs in school. We could get 3 SWATs a day. And it got to the point where they were like, okay, you're gonna not do this or you're gonna get SWATs. Hey, my grandma and grandpa were the type of people they were like, look, if he's acting up at school, swat his ass. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay. So this was the deal though. And I figured this out at a young age. Like I said, by the time I was in second grade, you could only get 3 SWATs a day. Didn't matter what kind of trouble you got into, they was allowed to lay that paddle to you 3 times a day.
Oh my God.
So I went ahead and earned my 3 SWATs on the way to school. God only knows, and I'm so sorry to some of y'all that rode that school bus, how many poor kids paid the price so that I could go ahead and get my SWATs when I went to school. Because that's how I became by the time I was in second grade. Now, fast forward to going into fifth grade and going into that LD class. All of a sudden, it sparked something inside me because I seen these other kids that some of them we didn't see like out on the playground and things, right? They didn't come out there. They didn't come hang out with all the fellows out playing football and doing
Hmm.
stuff like that. So I had no idea about the like hell they were going through. I would see these other kids and mainly older kids picking on them.
Yeah.
So in the fifth grade, my first real incident at school, kid ended up being a freshman in high school. I didn't know that at the time. All I knew was he was constantly picking on these other handicapped kids, constantly into them. And yeah, I just one day said in my mind, I was like, you know what, he's going to come in here doing this today. I'm not going to say anything. And I didn't. I just at that I was like, okay, that's going to be my 3 SWATs for that day. You know what I mean? This dude's going to do this today, and today's going to be the day that's going to be my 3 SWATs, and he ain't going to do this no more. So I did. I had it in my head, and he came in, started picking at them. I didn't say hi, bye, nothing. I just stole him as hard as I could. Had no idea that at that age, yeah, ended up fracturing this kid's nose, jaw. Yeah, they sent a hospital bill to my grandparents. They were not happy. You know what I mean? It was a deal, and it was like a deal breaker because then at that point, I didn't realize this, but of course he was a bully, right? So other
Right.
bullies looked up to him and he had this stigma for being that way. Then all of a sudden it put me into the limelight of, hey, he beat up this bully. You know what I mean? And I don't know
Hmm.
if you know what that's like or not when you're that age or in that environment. It made me a target because now the other guys that were his friends that could fight that were bullies too
Yeah.
then wanted a shot at me. And I'm like, I was young, dumb, didn't care. And I'm like, whatever, we can all do this, you know? So I got beat up a few times over it and learned how to fight a lot better over it. But then it kept on that way for years. I had that reputation of being the fighter in school, but that's kind of the way that I was in school about fighting. It was like, okay,
So
no one
basically,
else is going to pick on these kids. No one else is going to take up for them. So I become like the
you became the Robin
underbully,
Hood.
right? I become the underbully, and everybody would come to me and be like, "Hey, so and so is picking on me," or so and so. So I grew up automatically fitting myself into that role of trying to take care of other people. I don't know why,
Now, did
but
you
it
graduate high school?
never.
Never graduated. Have you ever
No.
gone back and got your GED?
I was getting a GED at one time, but then I
Okay.
managed to goof that up too. But yeah,
So you
you
left
want to know
high
how you can goof that up, huh?
mm, yeah,
She's
go right
like, I
ahead.
don't know, I don't know, I don't know. So yeah, fast forward down the road. Like I said, doing that and getting into that role, so I automatically filled into that. Also, on the other hand, I was raised different, right? My grandparents were old fashioned. My grandpa ran a sorghum mill that they ran on their farm for years until it dried up. Sorghum goes out, there's nothing else to do. Moonshining become a big thing in Southwest Missouri and in the hills of the Ozarks and things, and that become like a way of life.
Yeah.
By the time my age had developed and life had developed, you fast forward to the mid to late 80s, methamphetamines become the thing, and especially for Southwest Missouri. So our still turned into a lab. And at that point, I had started learning that. By the time I was 10, I was already able to operate it. I was keeping bus. I was doing things for my uncle and other people that were higher up. I can say that now because my uncle's dead. God rest his soul.
Let
But
me backtrack here. So you said a still. What do you mean? Like,
like a moonshine still. That's how
okay,
we
so
all
you,
started out there. That's how the old heads that were the guys that were doing the moonshine that were in that area transferred over to cooking the meth and different things because they were already cooking one substance. And after a while, moonshine's legal. Now all of a
okay,
sudden
so what
that's
about your
not.
grandparents? Did they know about this?
Who?
Your grandparents.
They did. And it was different. But it was, like I said, it transferred over from shine to the other. So for them, it was just one thing for another thing, but it was just a way of life. It wasn't like everybody was using, nobody was doing anything. It was just a job, literally. It was like you would go out there, put in your 8 to 12 hours doing that, come back in, and everything was good. Went to church, said prayer at dinner time. You know what I mean? It was just the way of life. It was no different than back in the days, and that's kind of how I imagine it is back in the days whenever they were just cooking moonshine and they were
Yeah.
running it, and everybody was like, "Well, it's just moonshine, it's just a thing, right?" So that's just what it was. It went from Arkansas was a dry state for years. Whenever I was growing up, all throughout my childhood, and Southwest Missouri were right there connected to it. So
Uh-huh.
that's who would come and buy most of the shine from the family. So once Arkansas opened up and become not such a dry state, then where do you sell your stuff? So then you start making something else that people are selling, right? So that's how
Yeah.
that started. So to them, it was no different. They didn't ever use or anything like that. So to them, it was just, hey, we're making something people are paying money for.
Now, did you use?
I did. As I got older, I did. When I was younger, I started using with my uncle. And it
How
was
old?
primarily, oh my God, I was 12 when I started openly using.
12.
Yeah. I was 9 whenever I started. I was able to smoke cigarettes or whatnot. So to them, it wasn't a thing. But I didn't actually start using anything until I was 12. When I was 12, I think it was my 12th birthday, was the first time that I actually started using. I was like, hey, you know what? This stuff helped me out on my sports because of everything in school. The only thing that kept me in school was I was really good at sports.
Okay, so
So,
what did you love the most about which sport did you love the most that you
oh my gosh. See, I couldn't make a choice. I lettered in everything: basketball, football, baseball. I was in all of them. Cross country, I ran track. Yeah, if I could do it, I could do it. If it was a physical event, I wanted to be in it. I kickboxed growing up.
so
So, yeah.
Jeff, I'm actually because I'm very, very naive when it comes to drugs and addiction and stuff like that. Okay. So I want to know is at that young age, what made you try it? Honestly, what for you to take that first step in using drugs, what were you thinking?
Seen the people around me, and honestly, the time that the from the beginning doing it was I was taught that, like I said, even by my uncle, he was like, look, we don't we don't do this to use this, but this is a tool. You know what I mean? So he educated me on it, to the fact that, the first speed encounters that we have are going to be somewhere in World War I and World War II. It was actually designed for troops and to keep people awake. So abused, it turns people into a wreck. But I was taught that, hey, this, and it's only for business. So my job at the first young age was not just in there cooking the stuff and working with chemicals or out selling it, because no one's going to buy from a kid this big, right? So my first job was the lookout guy. So my job was to make sure that no vehicles got down them roads without them knowing. And if they did, then yeah, that was going to be hell to pay. And that was my family. So I wasn't going to let them go to prison. So that was my gig. So you go to school all day and then you come home and you set up all night watching these roads through binoculars. You get a little tired, right? You get a little pressed after years of doing this. So at that point, I was like, okay, it was offered to me. It was made an option. I was like, oh, well, the rest of y'all, my uncle was a truck driver, and he stayed on the road day and night, and we'd come home and not sleep. We'd go and do that all night, and he'd be back out on the road day and night. And that's what I seen happen around me, was people that were constantly working a normal job and still living the life at nighttime. So what's sleep? Who needs sleep, right? So that's how it started. I was like, okay, I can do this, and I can still go to school, and I can still sit up here and do my job all night. And
And that made you feel good.
it made me feel like I wasn't going to let anybody down, because I knew if I went to sleep and someone come down that road, everybody's going to go to prison. And yeah, it just wasn't an option.
So
So
what kind of drug was it?
meth.
Meth.
Yeah.
Is that the stuff that you shoot or you smoke or
You can do a little bit of all with it. And of course, whenever I started, that's not how I started, with shooting or smoking it. Like I said, I was kind of educated on it. So I was taught that it was more something that you just do. So I wasn't taught how to party with it. I seen people party with it, but I would just put it in the end of a tissue. We'd wad it up, put it underneath my tongue, let it dissolve, swallow it, and that was it.
but like
Now
you
I
see
seen,
it
I've seen it, and I've done, and I've snorted it and did all the other stuff and smoked it. And I did get to, as I got older, I shot it because I was like, okay, that's cleaner. Never have shared a needle with anybody. My grandma made me promise that. My grandma knew when I started shooting, and she was diabetic, and she was like, look, anytime you need to use these, you can. Promise me you'll never use a dirty one, that you'll never use the same one twice. And I thank God for that, because kept me from ever being in a situation of sharing needles with anybody or doing anything like that, because I'm somebody, when I make a promise, I stick with it. And I promised her that at 12 years old. I was like, I promise you, I will never. So I never did. I've never shared a needle, not even with somebody I was sleeping with. Never, never.
so where was your mom and your dad? I know you said that they were living like 3 or 4 miles away.
living miles away down the road.
Did
Like
they not know what was
a
going
different
on?
life. They just they had their own life. It was different. Like I said, it was like there was this invisible wall between me and them. And knowing that I even had siblings that lived with them, that we didn't talk at school that much. We didn't anything. We had our own different lives. It was a whole different. They were pretty well-to-do people, and like I said, they had my younger brothers and them had all the brand new nice clothes and the Air Jordans and all the nice stuff, right? And I was the from the other side of the hill, from the other side of the woods, where we had to struggle and get by. And I worked, and
But if
not
you
only
guys were
did we do the
cooking,
open things, but we worked also other than that, and that's just what we did, just to pay the bills month by month.
but
So
if you guys were cooking meth and distributing, where was that? What about the
that
money?
that money goes into other things. So at the same time, we're trying to run a farm and trying to do other things. My uncle was trying to get a diesel truck company going, so he's investing money into it, and it just all keeps going around. The farm we lived on was 200 and some acres. So the mortgage on that has to be paid every month. So you got all the living expenses and all the bills. So you got three, four. Actually, I had a niece. Yeah, my niece was living there too. My uncle's daughter. So all of us living there. So you got all that. You got all the bills to pay for all the everyday life, right? So, and back then, like I said, it wasn't a thing like what it is now or then. It was just starting. Meth was just becoming in the limelight. So it wasn't like it was in demand. It wasn't like we were making 200 pounds of it. We were just, you know,
So Angie's asking, and the thing is that I forgot to tell everybody in the beginning. When I do my interview, I ask a question, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be mean, but at the end, I'm going to open it up to the chat so they can ask questions as well. But since Angie's is right here, good morning, Yankee Kyle, and everybody that came in. Was it a paternal grandparents or your maternal grandparents? Not that it makes a
what does
difference.
that mean? It was my mom's parents.
Your mom's, so it's
Yep.
maternal. Yeah. Okay. So,
My dad literally, I have half brothers that's the same age as my mom, half brothers and sisters. That's how
okay.
much older my dad is than my mom. She was literally less than half his age.
Wow.
So his parents had already passed away by the time they were together.
Okay. So now you were 12, you started using, and you, quick question, quick answer. How long did you use for?
Up till 2019.
Okay. So 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. You've
Yep.
been clean since
Somewhere it was somewhere in
2000.
there, 2018, 2019 that I stopped using. I was actually incarcerated when I quit.
I was just gonna ask you,
But
did
that
that
didn't stop me. Don't worry. I was incarcerated for years and used that whole time like a champ. So there's nothing in there you can't get out here. And I mean nothing.
so did the police end up coming to your
They did. Like I said, my uncle's dead now, and that viewed from a high speed chase shootout with the cops in which he was killed. So, I mean, everything comes to an end eventually, right? And like you said, it did build up. And I did prison time more than once, but this last time did fed time and state time. Everything blows up. My first time of being federally indicted was 2000, I think it was 2000 or 2001, because you can't be buying houses and boats and cars and not pay taxes and them not start questioning where the money's coming from. But I didn't understand that at that point because we'd always, spent a certain amount, but something happened during that time that the government passed a thing that if you spent over, can't remember if it was 15,000 or 10,000 cash, it was reported.
10,000?
And yeah, that's at that point, that's when things got stupid for me because I'd bought a house and properties and different things, and
Did you ever get married?
I did twice. Been married twice.
Do you have children?
Yep, I got grandkids.
You have grandkids?
Yeah,
Nice. So how old is your oldest?
oldest kiddo,
Yeah, child.
26.
26. And how many children do you have?
9. I have 8 surviving, 9 children in total.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have one that's departed.
Mhm.
And was it a boy or girl?
Tish, little girl,
Little girl. How old was she?
15.
What happened? Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh no, it's okay.
It's hard for him to talk about his daughter that passed.
Tish was, yeah, just a joy of life, right? But yeah, she'd went to her cousin's house and they were going somewhere, and drunk driver. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We don't have to talk about it, honestly.
No, that's okay. Just, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're okay.
I'm sending you a virtual hug.
That's okay. See, I don't know that. I know this though. It changed a lot of things inside of me.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I know that with all the mess that I already was growing up, right? So then, yeah, something like that happens, and it definitely, it really, I can say up to that point, I thought I was a pretty good person, right? So
Mhm.
I would say at that point in 2007, she passed. Yeah, she passed. She got killed on 7707, right? Supposed to be the luckiest day ever. So not so much. And I just, yeah, I remember it was like somebody flipped a switch. Everything inside of me changed that day. And it did. It changed every part of the person I was. I was married at the time. And I checked out and I told her, I was like, look, I can't do this. I need you to stay with the kids. I already had I'd already decided in my head that the person who was responsible for this was no longer going to get that option again.
Mhm.
So, and I knew that, and I told her, I was like, look, this, you're going to need to take care of the kids. And we had one child together, Raven. Other than that, the other kids were my kids. So she stuck by me through all that. I call her my good wife. If ever you watch this, definitely my good wife. She stuck by me through everything. We're still friends now. And she did. It made me different. It made me shut everything off. Like I went to using more because now I was trying to not only maintain, and at that point in life, I worked 2 jobs. I owned 2 businesses. I coached for the school. I was, you know what I mean? So, and I still used. No one knew all of that. Like I said, I wasn't like a junkie. I didn't look like the people on the streets you see getting high, like that kind of high.
Yeah.
I used very little every day just to maintain and keep me going. That was it, just to stay working, just to stay alive. So I justified it that way, is basically what I had done for years. So I was a functioning addict, is what you would call that, right? So
Yeah.
at that point, though, I didn't care. I didn't care. And I took everything I had been doing. I quit the one good, legit job. I was a manager and head cook of a restaurant that was really successful in Branson. And I quit that and walked away from it because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do anything that I was doing before. I felt like I just completely shut down. and it brought out this really dark side of me that was like terribly dark. I was mad at God. And he knows that. I was mad at him. I was like, how is it you're going to leave this child molester over here, and this person that raped this woman over here, and this person that did this over here? They're still breathing, but you're going to take my little girl that did nothing. You know what I mean? She did nothing to nobody. And how are you going to eliminate her, and you're going to leave all this trash? And that's how I looked at things. And I looked at things like that for a few years, for several years, actually. And I became a nightmare of a person. I mean, I did. I quit doing everything I was doing for my other kids, even. I quit coaching. I quit everything. I went straight into the pushing the drugs openly and everything else and not caring. Because I felt like, well, if this gentleman that killed my daughter had 3 DWIs, 2 of which were accidents, why was he even allowed to be on the streets driving anyways? And then how are you just going to lock him up for a few days and let him bond out when he took my kid's life? So at that point, I had nothing left for law enforcement. I already had little respect for him anyways because of what I grew up doing all my life.
Right.
Now you just killed the only respect for you I had when you did nothing to defend this little girl that's dead, and this cat's going to get to walk the streets. So I did. I just went into this not just self-destruct mode, but didn't care about anybody else that was around me. And when I look back on it and the way things were, it's just like, I don't know. I'm really grateful to God that I'm still here, because there was a million times I shouldn't have been. What kind of, you got to be in some kind of a mindset. I used to carry a 45 or a 50 cal desert on me all the time. I got to the point to where at the end of my little run on things on the streets, I was walking around constantly, no shirt on, strap on shoulder holster, cops knowing that I was a felon already. I just didn't care. And they didn't even know how to approach me. And I had different ones than them that knew me from being on the PTA, knew me from coaching. Even the chief of police that approached me on the phone and was like, bro, I keep getting calls about you. You know what I mean? He's like, I know you're going through a lot, but I didn't care. And I told them, well, you know where I'm at, then come get me. You know what I mean? Because I just didn't care.
Why do you think that they didn't come?
Well, because they knew I didn't care. I had literally crossed that line. And like, I would see them uptown. I met with them going in and out of grocery stores, knowing that I was a felon, carrying a sidearm in a shoulder strap with no shirt on. And they would look at me, they would look at it, I would look at them, I would look at it. We would look at each other, and they knew. Only one time I had one, and he pulled it, and I pulled mine, and I asked him, I said, you want to go home and see your family? I want to go home and see my family. So there's 2 ways this could end. And somehow we both walked away from that deal. And that was it. I think that was kind of their breaking point, was they was like, okay, he's willing to kill one of us, so we probably need to mind our steps. So that's how I went for years, and it went that way. And I really got in my head that, hey, I'm actually above the law because I could do this. And I lived that way for a good 2 or 3 years, just not even caring anymore. I didn't care. I didn't hide it. Didn't hide what I did. I just didn't care. It literally, when they killed Tish, I told people they killed my give a fuck. I didn't have one anymore. I did not have a care. I didn't care. They took my first little baby. You know what I mean? I was just so mad. So I've been there. So I can understand that when people go through that. Which is now compared to where I'm at now in life, right? Thank God.
Thank God. What brought you to the point of 2018, 2019? What happened that brought you to that point?
Oh, actually, it probably happened in like 2017, and it just kind of worked up to that point, right? Okay. About 2017. I'm sitting in prison, supermax.
But wait a minute. What were
And
you in
actually,
prison for? What were you in prison for?
what was I in prison for? Which
Yes.
time? First time I went to prison?
First time you went to prison.
Age 14 and a half, shot an undercover cop in the face.
And
Got
how long
tried
were
as
you
an
there?
adult. Thank God he didn't die, but yeah, they tried me as an adult, kept me in juvenile hall until I was my 17th birthday. I went to Supermax prison in Missouri, to Jefferson City, the prison they call the Walls that's now shut down. So that's how I started out with my whole prison life, and everything else that followed was from that age on, because yeah, just one thing after another. Like I said, at that age I was taught my job was to keep the cops from there, and I had made a mistake that allowed an undercover cop to get in the operation.
So, how long were you out of jail before you went back in again?
Oh god, maybe 2 or 3 years when I was younger, and then I went back in. Now I can get back out. Maybe 2 or 3, maybe not even 2 or 3 years. Probably like 6 months back in. I was just in and out because I didn't ever change. I didn't want to change. Right? I was doing what I was doing. I was happy doing what I was doing. And let's face it, prison for me the first time, looking back on it and seeing the things, I think I was more of a nightmare than it was, because I went to prison at a very young age, didn't tell on anybody, and that all shows up whenever you get there. All of us guys that are there that are affiliated, we all get your records months before you guys get there after you're sentenced. So all that shows up. It showed up that, hey, he kept his mouth shut. He didn't tell on anybody. He was questioning about all this. And not only that, but the cherry on top was, hell, he shot an undercover cop because he found out he was an undercover cop. So the people, the guys in prison, like, took me as like their son almost, and just started raising me the way they wanted me to be, which become a whole nother ball game.
Wow.
So it didn't make prison as hard as what you would say in other things. I seen people get killed and things, but I grew up seeing that. I seen a lot of things that other people didn't see, that kind of,
So that was just basically the norm for you.
yeah, it was just the norm for me. I was like, oh, well, ain't my business. Dude's getting raped. I don't care. That ain't my business. You know what I mean?
You were
Maybe he's
so
like coming.
desensitized.
Yeah, completely desensitized.
Wow.
And as desensitized as I was then at that young age, growing up that way, it got worse. And like I said, after Tish got killed, the desensitization thing, it was done. I was done. I was not in a good state of mind. And I was like, okay, well, I tried to be good, right? I tried to be a good parent. I tried to raise things. All I do is everything's going to get taken away anyways, is how I was looking at it. So I might as well go and be the best bad person I can be. And I did. I just went full blown on pushing, running and gunning. And it was complete self-destruct mode. But fast forward to sometime in, I think it was 2000, what was it, maybe 2009. This young man named Jesse's dad, single dad. Jesse's dad was a single dad, young man. Rode with us and did things, and some things happened. And as I'm holding him and he's taking his last breaths, he made me make a promise to him. And like I said, I'm a man, and he knew that too, that when I make a promise, that's my everything. I'm gonna keep my word. I promise you that. And promised him that I'd take care of Jesse. And he passed away, and I took care of Jesse for a few years. And
Who's Jesse?
Jesse was his son, and he was a teenager at the time, a young teenager. And Jesse had grew up like how I had grew up as a child. Jesse's dad was a single dad, taking care of him, and sold drugs for a living. That's what he did. And laid there in my arms, dying over a gunshot wound over a bad deal that, that's part of what happens. Yeah, myself, been shot 4 times. That's part of what happens when you live that way and you're really living and running and gunning that lifestyle. Not when you're singing about it, not when you're pretending or selling little dime bags so that you can get higher, but when you're really trying to do things. So I'd promised him I'd take care of Jesse, and I thought I had. You know what I mean? I gave Jesse a home. He stayed in the newest clothes. He kept in school. He did the things, I thought I was doing right. But fast forward to, what was it, 2013, shooting happens. I end up in prison following that. Jesse shows up in like 2017, 2018, and I got word about it ahead of time. And I had transferred over from Supermax. I'd got my custody level lowered. My time was getting closer. I was within a few years of getting out. So pulled me over to a minimum maximum camp. It's like a, in between. It's right next camp over. So moved me over there, and I'd got word that there was a Southwest boy coming in, and I needed to know about it because by then I was affiliated, and I was, shy collar is what they would call it inside the institution. So when you came from the Southwest part or Kansas City area of Missouri down, that became my responsibility. I needed to know your background when you got there, and especially if you were from the Southwest area, because there was a group and a lot of people know it, and it's called the Southwest Honkies and different things. We run most of the institutions in Missouri. So that was Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma. If you're affiliated with groups, you probably know who they are. So at any rate, I'd got this information about this Jesse kid. So I'm checking this out, and as I open it up, I see the name, and it's my Jesse, right? The Jesse I'm supposed to be taking care of. And he had, at that point, you go to a camp where they put you in, where they decide where you're going to go after that, right? And at that point, someone had sent me a message from there that, hey, this youngster's wanting to do some things to work on getting patched in, and they shot him to my camp. And it was Jesse, and he got there, and he was just so excited, and he's just Uncle Jeff. That's why he calls me, he's Uncle Jeff. And he's, Uncle Jeff, I can get my patch now. You know what I mean? He was just that moment, the realization, and the way it made something inside of me drop. It was like my stomach had fell out. It broke my heart, literally.
What's a patch?
This kid was so excited to have messed up his whole entire life, to have got to come to prison, to have earned a patch, to become a part of a gang. He's threw away his everything. And to me, his everything when I was on the streets was, dang, Jesse, I'm getting you up for school. I want you to go to school. I want you to get an education. Yeah, this stuff we're doing. Yeah, whatever. But there's something different than this, and this don't last forever. This is bad. My uncle taught me that when I was a child. He said, Jeff, are you sure you want to do this? There's 2 ways this ends. We spend the rest of our lives in prison, or we die. And he died. And I've watched others around me, all of them all dying. So I've laid there dying myself. So I knew that that's not what I wanted for Jesse. That's not what I wanted for my own kids. And I tried to make sure that they seen and knew that, hey, this is not okay. This is what I'm doing because this is the way it's paying bills. But you guys have an opportunity. You have something different. Get an education. Do something with your life that's going to matter. So yeah, whenever Jesse showed up there and that's all he could think about, it broke my heart. And seeing the literal smile on his face when he was like, wanted me to be proud of him. And it sickened me. And I was like, look at what I'm doing. I'm not just ruining my life, but I'm ruining other people's. And it didn't click like that until it was him. Other people I knew off the streets came in there, and other guys, and they would go through the process of wanting to earn the patch or wanting to do the things or be a part of things. And I didn't have a problem with that. But whenever I seen a kid that I thought of as like my own child, You know
Do
what
you
I mean?
think that it was because that you
Broke
had made the
something. Huh?
do you think it was because you had made a promise to his dad too?
Yeah, and this is the thing though. Even with this promise to his dad probably looks at it like I lived up to that because I took care of Jesse. I didn't let him go into foster care. I didn't,
Mhm.
and like I said, Jesse's dad died in my arms doing what we did. So for him, he probably, I don't know. I would almost be willing to say if he was alive, he'd have been like Jeff, patch him up. He'd have been the first one that got a hold of me. You know what I mean? Just because that's how far into that lifestyle we were.
Wow. It,
And once you're there, it becomes a family, right? We're family. Like I'm still connected to my guys. I'm still I won't ever not be all the way till death. That's kind of how it rolls. And there's a difference in me now than the me that was then. That was an active banger that was out trying to be a part of everything or trying to.
so the you said 2017 when he came in,
You know,
something changed.
yeah, it did. It sickened me inside myself, and I was just like, I don't know what it was, but it unsettled me so bad that I told Jesse, I was like, okay, well, here's the thing. We're going to work on this or that. Sometime within that week, I end up getting a hold of a dipstick, is what we call them in there. It's got K2 and wet on it, water, they call it, formaldehyde or whatnot. You smoke it and get high, right? So I'm smoking this crap and I flop out. I OD. Smoked more than I ever had before. And the reason why I had been doing that's because Jesse was there and I knew it. And it was just absolutely making me crazy now that I look back on it. So I OD. Whenever I OD, I start to flop out. And I knew something was going on. I seen everything vibrating. I'd heard things about other people when they would overdose on this crap, what it looked like and different stuff like that. But like I'd said, I was never a user that just tried to get messed up high. And let's face it, you're in prison, you're in Supermax with a lot of other people that, I mean, I was the head of one of, uppers on things that people looked up to. So that made me a target. I couldn't just be goofed up, but I was. During this time period, I was goofed up. I don't know why, but long story short, I ended up flopping out. Guy that comes to my rescue just came from Supermax, and I had grew up with him. His son was my age. His son had got killed by the cops in a police chase. He ended up shooting a cop and was just coming in off the tail end of his 25-year flat sentence. So he comes to my rescue. Basically, I come to. He's holding me like in his arms with my other cellie with rags on me, trying to get me to come to. And I'm like, dang, I come to and he's there. And I mean, he had just came in like the day before. And I'm like, dang, here's this other guy that's this tough killer, tough guy that I looked up to. And they're coaching me back to reality. And I come to and they're looking out for guards to make sure no one said anything or anything like that. And I'm like, okay. So they get me back. Take me to the shower. I'm all sopping wet, and I'm like, "Man, I owe you." I come back to him. I said, "Man, I could have died, and I owe you for saving my life. What do I need to get for you? You know what I mean? I got access to anything on the camp. What do you want?" That man looked at me and told me, he said, "Jeff, you're gonna think I'm crazy." He was like, "I want you to come to church with me on Sunday." I said, "Man, you gonna get me to come to church with you on Sunday?" I was like, I don't know that I can do that. He was like, "You just told me I saved your life and you would do anything I wanted you to do. So I want you to come to church with me on Sunday." I said, "Man, you got me. I told you I would, and I'll do it. I'll be there on Sunday." So knowing I was going to be there on Sunday, I went and told Jesse. I was like, "Jesse, I want you to come with me. I don't know how this is going to go. Maybe this is going to be some smoke over this, right? Because this is the thing. Affiliated people don't hang out in the church. In prison a whole lot. At least then we didn't. The reasoning behind that was because the chomos and some of the other people like that, you would chase them off the yard. The chapel would open up. They would let them go hang out in the chapel because they couldn't be on the yard with us dogs because the dogs would eat them alive. You know what I mean? So it was like a no man's zone, right? Guards walked around in there and things, and they gonna have the weirdos in there hiding out from the dogs out in the yard that want to eat them. And yeah, so it was really odd for me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to step out of my realm. I'm going to do this because I made this man this promise and he did save my life after all. So I'm going to do this. So I went to chapel and God just moved on me. Something moved inside of me and was like, you know what? I was looking at Jesse. I can remember looking over and seeing Jesse stand there next to me. And I thought, yeah, I can't do that. I can't be this guy anymore that's going to run this group that's ruining these people's lives. I just can't do it because I don't know. Something inside me just couldn't do that anymore. So within the following week, I actually made a thing and was like, hey, look, y'all, instead of meeting out here on the yard at this time, we're going to meet in the chapel. And these meetings aren't voluntarily. These are meetings you have to go to if you're a certain thing, right? So that's not an option. So that's where we started doing it. And I seen Jesse actually get saved. I seen him turn a different leaf. I seen other people come in there and get God in their life and start getting saved. And I started facilitating for Celebrate Recovery because at that time it started putting together pieces in my life of what was really wrong, right? Now, mind you, during all this time, still getting high. You know what I mean? Still getting high. Like I said, didn't stop then, right? Because that's like 2017, right? But I was still, and that was just because that's what I did. It was part of my everyday routine. It's like, okay, fellas, boom, boom, boom. And you would think being locked down in Supermax prison, you wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, we had everything and anything and probably more things than y'all could ever get on the streets. And yeah, it changed in there somewhere. And then one day and that's why people are like, and I tell them, that's great. Keep your clean date. Know your clean date if you got one, if you want to keep it and celebrate it. I don't remember my clean date. I just remember one day being like, I'm not getting high anymore. And that was it. I just literally didn't get high anymore after that. Now I do have
for weed. So there was no need for it.
Weed for me is completely different. I don't get high on weed like other people do. That's a different kind of thing. That's when Ella look at me and she'd be like, is that getting high? And I'm like, not really. That's not the same. That's a whole different kind of high, right? That's like way different than anything.
Let me ask you this question. Are you substituting one high for another?
No.
You're not?
No. Because see, I don't smoke like throughout the day like that. You're normally in the evening time, but I do it for pain and things because if not, then they prescribe me a buttload of hydros. I was on Oxycontins for a few years because, like I was saying, I was shot a few times, so I've got constant pain in joints and things. So it helps with that, and it keeps me from having to take the pills, which do make me feel weird, and that is like getting high to me. Like if I take pain pills, that whole feeling, that euphoria of your head lifting, I don't like that because to me that's getting high. That's how I used to feel when I would do meth or I would do fentanyl, and yeah.
So in this whole process, because you said before that your mom, you ended up taking care of your mom.
Yeah. Fast forward to
how did you go? How did you go from that to taking care of your mom? What happened?
Well, okay. So 2013 was when the shootout that led me to prison this last time happened. Mm-hmm. So in 2016, during one of my phone calls with family, I'd found out that my dad had been diagnosed with cancer and that it was like rapidly taking his life. So within 3 months of finding out, he was gone. So I missed that completely, right? Didn't get to go to the funeral, didn't get to do any of the things, nothing. And then find out that 2019, they're like, hey, you know what, we're going to go ahead and cut you out on parole, blah 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 blah. You did as much I'd actually did as much time as they could make me. In prison you get different types of release dates. A CR date in the state of Missouri means conditional release, meaning that they can no longer hold you. When you're sentenced, you're only sent. The most they can make me do is 85% of my time. Well, I had done it because I didn't care, right? So I'm like, I'm in prison. I'm not here for following the rules. So I followed none of the rules in prison either. So I did all my time that I could. And whenever I got ready to go up for parole, and then someone reached out to me, and I can't remember if it was my mom that had told me first or someone else, and they were like, hey, you know, your mom was diagnosed in stage 4 cancer. And I was like, well, okay. My grandpa was still alive at that time and had been having heart issues and had a heart attack and different things. So, of course, I parole out to go to be down there. Grandpa, within, I don't know, a little while was like, hey, you know, your mom's over here. Mom started coming around more. I owned a house on the other side of where my mom and them's place was, and 20 acres. And I was like, I didn't live there. I still lived in the other place. And I'm like, okay, she's sick. Dad's gone. No one else is going to be there to take care of her. I've not got a whole lot going on here. Grandpa's this way. Maybe I get both people together here and I can take care of both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It just seemed like somebody needed to. And I can almost hear my grandma saying, you know what, you got to be the bigger person. And she's the one who taught me all those things. You know what I mean? So I did, and was like, well, here's what we can do, and we can help do all this and help take care of her. And at that time, I was kind of told that, hey, this will probably be a 6-month ordeal, kind of like with your dad. So at that time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my part for 6 months, and it'll all be history at that time, right? Everything will be done. So that 6 months turned into that young lady just got out of the hospital. What was it, a couple of days ago? She said she got out of the hospital. Yep, a couple of days ago, with her kidneys shutting down and things again. And I mean, it's borrowed time, right? So I was there as long as I could be there for all of that, for a year and something, almost, well, 2 years and something worth of doing it. And then, then there just comes time, right? And I reached a point with my other siblings, even them, one being in California at the time and one being over here at the time. And these are the children that she raised, that lived with her. You know what I mean?
I
Now,
did.
I'm going to get to hear from you all about what I should be doing to take care of your mama. You probably need to come here to take care of your mama. So I reached that boiling point. Oh, I don't know, what was it, 4 months ago or so. And everybody had some suggestions on to do this or that. And I was like, you know what you need to do? You need to quit that cushy job you got in California and move your family up and come to Missouri, because you got a mom here you need to come take care of.
Have you ever forgiven your mother?
That's what I did. I was like, okay, y'all got till this long, literally to the day, and told them I'm gone. And yeah, they've been there now trying to figure out how to put together pieces of things. And it's like I told them, I was like, no one appreciates when you're doing everything, but boy, they got a lot to say about how it should be done until they're there trying to figure out how to do it. Now everybody's like, how did you do this? Well, figure it out.
Have you forgiven your mother?
Hmm?
Have you forgiven your mom?
I don't know. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I've never not forgiven her. I just didn't care, really. I guess I can thank her for turning off that part of me. There's a part of me inside that probably is what made it easy for me to establish the life I did, or just growing up that way, that when people push a certain part of me, and I have this ability to turn off the switch, which made me really good at my past life, that, I can turn it off and not have not one feeling. So, it's pretty much where I stuck my mom at, was in the non-filling part because I don't want to be mad at her forever.
No,
I don't want to
absolutely.
be not understanding. So I just put it in the I don't give a shit file, really. Click. I mean,
Now, how is your
I feel
relationship?
like me doing what I've done up to now has been being the bigger person, right? Being the person that tried to, and she's my mom. So I respect her for giving me life. She had the option of whenever I was born, they actually wanted her to abort both of us. So she had that option, and I could have never have been here. So I respect her for at least going through and having me and giving me a chance at life, whether or not it ended up the way other people see it as being a great life. But it's been my life, and
Yeah. How is your relationship with your children now? The 8 children that you do have, and Jesse. How is
uh,
your relationship with Jesse and the 8 children you have?
oh my gosh. So it went from really, really great, all of our relationship, and to things happen when you're gone for years. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And the last time I was gone was 7 years. I was gone from them, basically. That they would get to come see every once in a while. They'd get to come see me in prison, but there was a lot of times they didn't get to come see me for like a year because I, yeah, got involved in stuff, stabbings and other things. When that happens, they put you in what they call the hole. You get no visits, you get no daylight, you get no nothing. And I spent a lot of time in the hole throughout my bit at different times, and yeah, and it affects them as children too, and as adults even, right?
100%.
So I mean, I would say that we get along okay. My daughter Jasmine, she'll come every once in a while, come into the chat, and she's 23 and got three little babies of her own, and my son JJ just had his daughter born on the 16th of this month. So now he
Congratulations.
got me being a grandpa again that direction. My son Ty has got two little boys and very successful in his career, even after losing his twin sister. Tish and Ty were my first kiddos, twins.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And my younger kids are in Arkansas with their mom, and they're, preteens and teens. And
Good. Now, how's Jesse?
Jesse is still there. Jesse's going to be there for the next 21 years. So, you
Okay.
know, that's one of those things that, and I would say it's just a step by step thing with him, even. It's the same thing as being out here. He has his good days and his bad days. And it's been a minute now since I've got to talk to him. He's in the hole over some stuff. And
Yeah.
I understand that that's part of it, and I hate that for him because also when you're in the hole, you're allowed letters from outside people, but you're not allowed letters from people that have been inside when you're in the hole. Now, I can write him in the regular camp. He can call me. He can do things like that. He can't call from in the hole, and he can't receive letters from me because I'm a convicted felon. So I don't get to have any contact with him through then unless it's through contacts of other sorts, which I know he's doing okay. But I really try not to grab into those things a whole lot because let's face it, when I ask a favor from the inside, they ask a favor from the outside. And one favor leads to another favor. Somebody's favor is going to end up getting cut short.
Yeah.
So I try to limit my.
Right. I get it. I get with what you're saying. So now, I mean, I heard that, you still go to church, you do the whole thing, you're clean, sober, which is friggin' amazing. Very proud of you. Very, very proud of you. And do you have some type of a group
Yeah.
that you teach, right?
Yeah.
Or you preach, I should say.
Well, teach, preach. I guess I say teach. Now, some people say preach, but I think maybe a little bit of both. But yeah, I said that I'd started facilitating for Celebrate Recovery on the inside, trying to bring it into the institutions just because I'm somebody that I look at my own past and I try to learn from my own mistakes, right?
Mhm.
So I seen that what kept bringing me back to prison And what kept me in that life was each time I would get out, I would go back to them same people right away. Like the day I get out, we'd already be talking about it when I was in there. Hey, man, you get the girls, you get the booze, you get the drugs. We're good. We're going to kick it tonight because I ain't been out in how long? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every reason was a reason to party.
Yeah.
So I knew that if through CR they did make that possible, if there was a way I could have had someone on the outside, a good influence, to have been like, hey, come check out this meeting over here, come do this, come do anything else besides go kick it with your old friends and get high.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you end up back in here. And honestly, for anybody out there that's listening, this system's made like a circle, right? State of Missouri got paid $135,000 for me from the federal government every year. They also got a check for $165,000 from me every year from the state of Missouri. That means this body sitting in one of their cells was worth over $300,000. That's how they make their money. They don't want to fix your problem. They want you to come back. They want you to stay there because that's how they make their money. That's all it is. It's just a big money making racket because there's no way that someone that's selling drugs should have to do some much more time than a person that took the innocent of a child by raping them or by molesting them. But that's the way the system's set up in all states, but for sure Missouri. There ain't no way a child molester should get 3 years and me out here selling weed should get 5. Where's the math? That don't make sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that went down to, and that's where honestly the gang life and the stuff on the inside appealed to me because I could get down with the bros on messing up some chomos. I mean, I used to live for that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the record comes in. They said they done touched a child or done raped a woman. Oh, well, we got something for you when you get there. I mean, we're going to be there waiting for you.
Jeff, I need to ask you, what is a chomo?
Child molester.
Oh. Okay. I did not know that. Oof. All right. So, I have to tell you
That's
guys.
right. Little Debbie's right. That is true right there. That is so true, though. That's how the sentencing works. And it's like child molesters, murders, 5 years, drug dealer, 35. That's what they tried to get me was 35 the last time for selling drugs. They offered me less time for the shooting that put me in prison because, the last time I shot some people back, and that's what wound me up in the clink the last time.
I don't understand the whole, like Debbie just said, okay, murders get out in 5, but then you have drug dealers that are 35.
You got drug dealers that are sitting in prison right now that I know on life sentences for growing marijuana in the state of Missouri that now is a completely legal state that you can grow in. Why ain't we getting them released? You know what I mean? What the heck is going on? See, this is how the system's fouled up. They should not only, and you know what? The very first time I went to prison was over that damned undercover cop buying weed from me that's now legal in the state of Missouri. They should apologize for my whole life because they goofed it up. Anyways, if you look at it that way, right? It's like y'all should be apologizing to me from day one because the weed should never even have been illegal and it would have erased all this other nonsense.
Oh, wow.
We would have stuck with weed if it had been legal. We'd have been growing bells of it.
I have to say to everybody, honestly, I know that people are saying that they've had Elizabeth, you said you've had an education. I have had an education. I did not know, honestly, did not know that the interview was going to be this depth. This is blowing me away. Like, I'm lost for words. I'm just listening to you and taking it all in and seeing and hearing what you went through and seeing who you are now. And I'm not saying that you were a bad person, but you're here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go through everything that you went through in order for you to be who you are now and to help other people.
Yep.
And it sucks that so many people have to go through that, but it's like that is your destiny, that you're here. You had to physically to go
I've seen so many other people that I knew and that I know, and people that would come into the program that we started in Cassville and in Springfield, Missouri. Is called Life Change. Y'all can look it up. Please do look up Life Change. You're probably going to get to see some pictures of me standing there with signs and different things. But it just we got it to finally be a non-for-profit, and all of it got approved like 6 months ago, which also fed in my ability to be able to leave Missouri and come down here to Florida to visit with Miss Ella and get to pursue other parts of life. So, yeah, y'all go check that out. But this is the thing. Gangbangers and drug dealers don't want to listen to preachers and lawyers and other people that have never had their hands dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never went to church. I was offered to go to church by a lot of goody two shoes people. I didn't go to church with. It took a guy that was a cop killer that saved my life to see him change and even mention the word church was like, wow. So it took him being there to offer me to go to church and saying, well, hell, if he can go to church, I'm going to check this out and I'm going to go give it a shot. And actually giving it a shot. When people that know me, especially from Southwest Missouri area, heard about the program, no joke. Over half of them, when they would show up, the first thing they would do, someone else would bring them in to see me. They'd be like, I just had to come and make sure it was you that was here. I heard that you had made this big change in life and that you were running this program, but I couldn't believe it until I seen it with my own eyes.
Now, do you go to school?
See them stick around and some of them complete it. Now, I have had some of them come and then try it out for 3 months, 6 months, and then just fall off because, I mean, that can happen. If you have to decide you're done using drugs. If you're done getting high, like I said, I smoke weed for pain. To me, that's completely different than doing meth and heroin. Way different ballgame. Each person's different. Some people might be able to have a drink of alcohol. I don't drink because of the fact that I have an addictive personality like that. I don't want to go down that road of being an alcoholic. I've never, I just, and especially after losing my daughter to a drunk driver, I steer away from alcohol. Where other people, smoking weed might be their thing that they're hooked on. They might not be able to support themselves or anything else because they smoke too much weed. That can be a problem. I mean, anything in excess is a problem. So, right. By all means, do what fits you. But if you're someone that's going through struggles in life and you think maybe using a substance is part of your struggle, until you decide you're done, you're not going to be done. A million people can try to help you and point you in the right direction and hand you a million tools that you're going to throw out the window. But the day you decide that you want to change in your life, that you want a life change, that you want something different, that's the day you're going to have something different. Everything after that will be different. But you have to decide that.
Now, I know Des is saying this, and it's like the second or the third time that she's put in there. Have you ever apologized for the past actions to the cop that you shot in the face? And I know why she's asking, because her family are, stepfather and whatnot, police officers.
Okay, so I guess, and this is a different side of me too. And like I said, whenever they paroled me out, it was only because they had to at that point, because I am that guy that I didn't, whenever they ask, hey, do you want to write this thing? Because this is my honest outlook on it. Now, looking back, and I am very thankful for this. I thank God for this so many times, that man lived, that man went on to do whatever he was doing successfully, and that I didn't cost him his life, which would have just wrecked more lives anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I looked at it this way, and this is the way I looked at it then, and I still look at it this way now. There's cops, and then there was us. That cop knew at age 12 when he started working on me, trying to get inside, and even said that in court. And that's what made me decide that even then I told the judge, you know what, no one else was there. It was just me. And the judge was like, he said there was other people there. He just can't remember who and he can't identify them. But yeah, it was just me. And I did it because that was my job. I mean, that's how I looked at it. It was no different than him being a cop and going in and shooting me. You know what I mean? He had a job to do, and at that time of life, I had a job to do. So it's different, right? I'm not sorry. I did my job. I'm not, but I am sorry that the way that life was, that it had to be that way. And more than anything, for years, I was angry because I was like, what kind of grown man? This man was 30 some years old, was busy playing and getting high with a 12-year-old trying to get leads on how to get the main dealers. What? For one, probably shouldn't have been getting high with me when I was 12. Whether or not he knew at that time at first how old I was or not, probably not, because a lot of people didn't. But
So
after
basically,
he was actively investigating me, he knew how old I was, so he was taking advantage of a kid.
but he was getting high with you.
Yeah. I was selling to him. I made him get high with me just like everybody taught me to. So he got high with me just like everybody else. Only reason I found out he was a cop was because my uncle and two other brothers were at a house that they had raided and had seen him whenever he took off his ski mask.
Yeah.
And they come and told me, they were like, dude, in the other room that we just seen on the camera, because I kept cameras in the house and in the places, and they were watching. And they were like, dude's a cop. And yeah, played along with it for a few weeks and gave him every option in the world of opting out of it. And then just, I felt like I was in a dead end, right? And I was like, okay, so at that point it was up for me to take care of it. So I did. I'm grateful to God that he's still alive, because that, no telling how that would have changed the rest of everything, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had my first kids. I wouldn't have had different things. Life would have turned out completely different. But at that point, no. And I'm not sorry that I did what I felt like I had to do at that time. But I'm sorry that all of us ended up in that situation, because what kind of, and oddly enough, later on in life, the prosecuting attorney that sent me up that time became a defense lawyer based off of my case, because he was like, there was so much wrong with what they were doing, he couldn't be a part of it anymore. Anytime that the police and the government that is, the powers that are, become so corrupt that even their prosecutor says, hey, after this one, I can't do it. And came back to me when I was locked up and was like, these are the reasons why you should be out. This is how they entrapped you. This is how. And like I said, I was young. So as soon as they came at me with, we just want these and these and these people, I came at them with, I did it all. Send me to prison. That was it. That's what I did. I walked in there, and that's exactly what I told them. I was like, I've got nothing to say about anybody else, but I did it. So here we go. Because I did. I'm the one did it. I'm the one pulled the trigger. I'm the one made the decision. So, and ultimately he made that decision. He put on that badge. He went out that door every day knowing he was getting paid and that his life was in danger. But he obviously took it as a joke, because I was a kid. I just wasn't a kid in here. I was a kid age-wise, but I wasn't a kid in my head.
Wow. Wow, Jeff. You have been through a lot.
I mean, I'm sure that probably any law enforcement officer would tell you, if they had to shoot and kill someone, that, look, I didn't enjoy taking their life or shooting them, but that was part of my job. I had to do it. So at that time, that was my job. I had to do it.
So, Jeff, you had to go back and change any part of your life, what would it be and when?
I wouldn't. I've thought about that, and I've even asked Ella that, and I've talked to her about it different times, just hypothetically. But if I changed any part of anything, then I wouldn't be sitting here right now, right? I wouldn't get to see that beautiful smile across the room. I wouldn't get to feel complete. I wouldn't get to any of the things that I have now. Everything up to now led me to where I'm at.
That's right.
So, yeah. See?
Now that we saw Ella on camera, what's going on? What's this? What is the status?
Status. I'm surprised she had already said so. She's probably like, you don't like titles.
I said status, so.
What does status mean?
Is there a title?
Is there a title? No title. She's like, this is your interview, not my interview. She's going to leave me hanging. She ain't going to come over here and help me out with this.
I'm interviewing you. I'm not her. You.
I'm getting ready for my auction.
She's getting ready for her auction. Did you hear that?
I did. Look at him blush. She's turning red.
I don't know how you chased me all over YouTube.
Yeah, she says, tell them about how you chased me over YouTube. I did for like a year and a half. Over a year and a half.
What was it about Ella that attracted you to her?
Her smile, her upbeatness, her, I don't know, just, and then her story. I'd heard it and about the things she'd went through and about, ending up homeless and being stuck and not knowing and being from another country and not having anything. So that's so much. That's like so close to where I was at, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I decided that, okay, I'm going to change everything, I've literally broke away from everything. I no longer collect money from the bros. I no longer do anything like that. So in a sense, I feel like I haven't got any family here anymore, right? I mean, my mom is all but gone, and that's it, other than my children who are now grown and who's got lives of their own. And I respect that to the point of I try to keep a distance because where they're at, I'm so well known for the other things.
Okay.
So I stay in touch with them via phone, text, message, calls, other things, but I try to not, because it does. I mean, it sticks with you. And there's a lot of people in Southwest Missouri that are never going to see me any other way. But it has been such a blessing to have put a hobby and a trade into my life, such as coins and silver and gold, to where I had a chance to, before I left even, my clients were my old high school coach, my old high school principal, the lawyer that prosecuted me. These people, all of these people from these towns, these bigwigs, all came to me for their silver and gold needs, and I got every one of them involved in it. So it felt really good that before I left, these people would come and bring me, thousands of dollars to buy what I had to offer them. Right. That wasn't drugs. It wasn't guns. It wasn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, myself, and probably you can see that by that smile. For me, that's just amazing, right? That I no longer even think about that. And I didn't. I'm not even going to lie about this. There was, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and things right now for me are tight. Things are kind of, because I'm just in the middle of everything. It's a big transition thing for me that I was like, man, this sucks. And this wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, I'd have went and dug up $500,000 and we'd went and got a house and did whatever we want, wherever. So sometimes for me, it's hard for me to backpedal and be like, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm going to be happy and content with what God's given me. You know what I mean? That's right, little Debbie. It's clean money.
Free money.
So I've just got to keep in my mind to keep it that way, because there's this other part of my brain that knows that, you know what I mean? I could take this money and turn it into this money. But I know for fact what it takes to turn it into that money. And that is death and suffering and problems that affects not just me, but it affect everybody. And I would never in a million years want to lose Ella because of making some stupid ass decision like that. So as quick as I thought that in my head was, well, I won't be having this problem if, I automatically thought, well, you know what? You wouldn't even be here and have this opportunity if you were still part of that. Because I would be somewhere else. I would probably be in Mexico with my daughter. And honestly, my one daughter is very active into things. And that's where she's at right now, is down on the Texas-Mexico border. And I talk with her, I pray for her every day, and I tell her, you know, Jasmine, we got to get it right. And one day she will. That's what I pray. So she'll get it.
Miss Ella would actually kick you in the ass.
Yeah. She would.
For sure.
She would, for sure. See, she's like, for sure.
Oh, that nonsense.
Oh my God. So, is there any questions that in the chat that you want to ask Jeff? Guys, I know you've been putting stuff out there.
Y'all, it is so hard for me to read the chat. I do so well on my streams and on Ella's, and I know everybody gets a kick out of me typing wrong, but I can't help it, y'all.
So Elizabeth said, if you hadn't gone to church that night, imagine that. Yeah. And
that's and I thank God for that, because I know some of y'all are hearing this are probably like, my God, what kind of grandparents would allow this, or what kind of, you got to understand the lives of the people and where they're living at, right? So what they did install in me was my grandma every morning was like, it don't matter where y'all at, y'all gonna come in and we're gonna say a prayer over the food, even if you're not gonna eat it because you're all spun out, you're gonna say a prayer over the food and we're all gonna talk to God. And she would do that for us regardless, every morning. And we knew that come 5:30, we're to be at grandma's house and we're all gonna say a prayer around the table and we're gonna look at some food even if we can't eat it, and then we're gonna go back to work. Yeah. And she installed in me to be honest with people, to have integrity in yourself, to be able to know that you're, you know, a certain way, which was good for me on a business platform on all levels, even on the other levels. People knew I was about what I said.
Yeah.
And I think that promise I made that night to that day to that man, that I would go to church, the only reason I followed that promise is because my grandma and them, and my mom and different ones had installed in me that when you promise something, when you say something, you do it.
Do it.
So going to church that night, yeah, it was due to the fact I made him that promise. So it was their raising that made me follow that promise, or else I just wouldn't have went, right? Because I was in a position in there that I'd been like, look, man, kick rocks. What are you going to do if I don't go? You know what I mean? Go ahead and whoop me. Let's go ahead and.
So, how do you want to be remembered by? What do you want people to say about you when you have gone?
I don't think I've got there yet, right? So you want them to be able to say positive things about you. So I'm still working on that, right? Because it takes a whole lot of positive to get rid of some negative, because there is a million people that still yet to this day that if you went around them areas would be like, oh my God, if you mention my name, they'll be like, oh yeah, man, that dude. You know what I mean? You need to, that dude, what, did you mess up? You know what I mean? That's, they're going to ask him what happened. So it takes time, y'all. That's what I would say for anybody that has messed up in life, got some bangs and bruises on you. You're going to carry them bangs and bruises and them scars forever. I mean, I love Tom McDonald music, a lot of it, but I love his song Scars. If y'all haven't listened to that song Scars, go listen to it, because that's like my song, right? It's like we all have these scars we carry. So it's how you carry yourself with them scars after that. Like if I decided, okay, this is all I can be as a gangbanger that sells drugs, I'd still be somewhere gangbanging and selling drugs.
So, Jeff, and this is a personal question from me, and I hope you don't take this in any other way. I'm not being mean, I'm not being judgmental or anything like that.
Go ahead.
But I know as a 12-year-old child, you said you had a man's brain. But as you grew up, you got older and wiser. How, and I'm asking you because I know you can't speak for anybody else. How could you sell drugs to kids that you knew it was going to like affect them, going to
Okay, so here's the thing, and I've actually now how do you ever get to this level? I was sitting in the county jail waiting to, for sentencing, waiting for trial this last time, and I had the mayor and the chief of police and different ones that were like, "Look, you got to fix this. What are we going to do without you?" Now, see, your question is, how would you have done what you were doing with selling the dope to kids? Never did. Not one time. And as a matter of fact, for our crew and for my people and the way it was presented to me, even as a youngster, was we never sold to anybody that was under the age of 18. You never sold to a woman that was pregnant or that had a child that was under 9 months old because they should be breastfeeding. We had rules. We had rules set in place, and if you broke those rules, it was a bad deal. That's how my name got so well spread, because my other family was really good about it, and they kept it down. But then as time got on, going through the 90s, 2000s, got younger people started trying to sell, and they were trying to sell to each other. There's where conflict came in with other groups, which was quickly eliminated because I already had so much pull. But the sheriff, everybody knew that. We did not allow it. And if we caught people selling in school zones, if we caught people selling to children or pregnant women, they were made very good examples out of, to where people didn't want to do that anymore in them communities. They didn't have to worry about that. And they asked me, they were like, now that you're gone, and even when I was locked up, they started seeing it happening. They were like, these guys ain't following the rules. They're selling to kids, they're selling to everybody. And it just started going to hell quick. But I had rules in place, and there was people paid to make sure them rules were followed. And if you didn't follow them, you wouldn't break them twice.
So those were your rules, but those weren't your uncle's rules.
That was the rules, right? But for them, I know I was a kid, but I wasn't considered a kid. I was part of the family, right? So when you're part of an organization or a group, the children you have, when they're brought up into it, just automatically kind of become a part of it. It wasn't hard for me I didn't have to worry about meeting them and becoming a part of them. I grew up being a part of them. So to them, it wasn't like I was a kid they were selling to. I was the kid that was actually helping cook it and making it happen. So it wasn't like they were selling to me. I was helping them provide it. So I started out already in that position. Instead of being someone that was buying, I was already somebody that was making. And then I took that, and that started becoming exports and imports to other countries, because it's how my brain works. Kind of like me starting out with like 4 quarters and a dime that was silver, and now I couldn't even tell you how many 100 ounces of silver I got or gold because I just keep turning it around. And it's the same way I was doing that then. So yeah, but my uncle and them the ones taught me that. They were like, we don't sell to women, we don't sell to children. I was never thought of as a child. I was always I was like an adult. I never dealt to kids my own age. Like literally growing up, by the time I can remember in 7th grade going over to people's houses to the door that were a year or two older than me. And they'd be like, what's up, Crumpler? And I'd be like, hey, is so-and-so here? I'm there to meet their parents. I would go to the parents' bedroom with them, do the transaction, leave. A lot of times wouldn't even say hi or bye to them. And then they would see me at school, and we already knew what time it was for each other, so we didn't speak then either.
Did you ever feel used by your uncle, knowing that you were a child? to
Not
do
by
that
him,
work.
but by somebody else that was an elder and over the top of us. And that was when I decided that I was going to make a push and take over that group on that side over there. Because, yeah, I felt like someone had took advantage of me. So I did. I cut the head off of that other arm and started pushing on their terms. It's hard if you don't understand.
I don't. And I don't know. I like my world.
But yeah, I felt like I had been
That's
taken advantage of when I was
scary.
younger. So by the time I was like mid-teens, I was like, okay, now we're going to do it my way. And that was it.
By the time you were what?
Mid-teens, I was
Mid-teen.
like, okay, yeah. At that point, I wasn't trying to just sell for these other people. Like my uncle had a friend that had me moving for him also. And he tried to take advantage of that. And I knew that. And I was like, okay. So all I done was I went to the customers he had me selling to, and I just took his business. I was like, look, I'll give it to you better, cheaper, and screw him. And that's what we did. So that's how I dealt with it. That was I don't know how other people would have dealt with it, but that's how my mind took it and dealt with it, was I just took over their business. Took over their I took all their customers, I took all their everything, we shut them down.
That's what you were molded to do, to think,
Yeah.
to be. That
Yeah.
it indirectly, that's what happened, and it was just wow. But it's so amazing to know that you were there, and look at you now. You're
And you can change, and the only way you're gonna change is if you want to. And it ain't so much changing. I haven't changed who I am as a person,
mm-hmm.
like the way my mind works and the way my heart is and
Yep.
the way things like that. I'm still me, but I have opened up my mind and I look at things so much differently. And like even in the last year and a half of knowing Ella and getting to know her, I don't just think about me. I think about her. I don't just think about my needs. I think about her needs. I think about, and the coin community and YouTube becomes such a big part of that and has been such a help in keeping me that way, that whenever I didn't have much else of a purpose, that's when all of a sudden God put the coins and the silver and the different things into my life and was like, here's you an outlet. Here's you something you can be a part of.
Yeah.
And that helps tremendously. Getting to be just a part of a group of people, like a family, right?
Yep. You can definitely change your habits. You're absolutely right, Pearl. Yep.
You can. And they say it takes however long for something to become a habit, and it takes like 10 times longer than that to stop it, but you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I quit smoking cigarettes by just deciding one day, okay, I'm not smoking no more. And actually part of it was like, I can't stand the smell of cigarettes and I can't stand them either. And I'm like, okay. So I knew before I ever actually met her in person that I probably needed to quit smoking. So that was like a year. Yeah.
So where do you see things happening? What do you see happening with you and Ella?
Oh, well, now there you go. Ella will tell you this. You can't read people's minds and you can't tell the future. So God didn't make you that way. So don't try to do it. So there you go. I can't do it. You see her shaking her head. Yeah.
Ah, that's awesome. Hey, as long as you're both happy with each other, and that's all.
She said, one step at a time.
That's right. One step at a time is right. One step at a time. So on this note, we're gonna end this because it's already it's what? It's 12:50.
She's like, look, there's 10 million other things I want to ask you.
There really is, but
That's
I
okay.
know.
Another time.
And we can conclude this definitely, because I would love to come back to you maybe in about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months and see where you are at that time.
Okay.
Because I'm really proud of you, Jeff.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just glad that now, like you said, whenever you're gone, what are people going to think of you? At least now I know that some of the people that I left behind up north, that if something was to happen today, they'd be like, look, that man made a complete turnaround. And I know that we've left a program in place, life change, that hopefully I'm hoping maybe I can help bring some of that down here to Florida if I could find the right church or the right group to bring it to.
Yeah.
But for it to be in Southwest Missouri and in Springfield as much as it is, that in itself is just something really good to live behind, because if it can help one person change their life, not to where your life does affect other people's. So if you can change one person's life, then you've probably changed 5 or 6 people's lives without even knowing it.
Now, is there anything on YouTube that, that you could actually do too? Like helping people via, you know,
I
live?
don't know. Now, see, I've thought about that, and I have got a buddy that Adam that he does a just fires up and does self help talks and things like that. So
Yeah.
right now, for me, it's hard to. Okay, so I came up with Ella a few times and sold. I've came up with Johnny and sold. So I've bought retail stuff since that started happening, because I'm like, well, I gotta have stuff to sell, right?
Hmm.
But it's hard for me to not just stream in the same place. How do I word this? Okay, if I was to fire up a stream right now, there would be a handful of resellers that would come, and then there would be a whole lot of coin people that would come, right?
Yeah.
Coin people look at me like, why are you trying to sell me some women's goods right now instead of some coin stuff?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. It's hard for when you have a channel and you have it established as something to go ahead and try to do two things on it, because now it's either I'm going to get the resellers to come in a whole lot, or I'm going to get the coin people to come in. So I can't sell coin people resell stuff. I can't sell resell people coin stuff necessarily. So I'm still trying to figure out that. Hey Jennifer, how you doing? Good to see you.
Sometimes you have to start a different channel. If you
Yeah, I done tried that too before. I started a different channel. We had Crumpler's auctions. It was just going to be an auction channel. Nah, I ain't trying.
will be about giving advice to other people. I think that's what she's trying to say.
So what if I tried to open up another channel? That's what I was saying. What if you opened up
Yeah.
and did
Open
that?
up another channel just for, self-help, or, you know what I mean? Like helping people that's going through this, people that like to talk about their past and see that it relates to somebody else, that they're not, by themselves.
Right.
I think you would help. I mean, a vast, you're not just subjected to just a couple of people. I'm not saying a couple like two, but if you go somewhere, there's a group of 10 or 20, you'll reach out so many people.
Right.
And there's so many people that have been in your situation, are still in your situation.
You're
Or
still
some
going through it.
people
Yeah.
are still
And
going through it.
somebody in Ella's chat yesterday was talking about the different programs. Y'all can look it up online, look up a life change in Southwest Missouri, but also there's all different kinds of programs. So one she had mentioned was Alpha. Alpha is a great program. I've actually facilitated it, completed it a couple of times, because I'm somebody that if I'm facilitating the program, I'm gonna walk the walk with you. I'm gonna do it with you, because who wants somebody just to tell you how to do it instead of doing it with you? You don't respect that much, and you don't. So
Yeah.
that is a really good program. I love it. Hello, Swamp Picker. How you doing?
Hey, Glenn. I
So
know.
that is a really good program. So that young lady and her husband that's doing that, I say stick with it. They got follow-up programs from that one that I've facilitated. They are all good programs, but a program is only a tool, right? So what you got to do is take from it what applies to you. Not everything is going to apply to you that applies to someone else. You know what I mean? What applies to me ain't necessarily going to apply to you. Maybe bits and pieces of it are going to, but not all of it. So
I also think that it's not just, I don't think that you're here just to help someone that was in an addiction and stuff like that, but also like family members. I think you can help, family members, friends of people that are addicted, to help them understand or guide them through maybe a process that the other person, what they're going through. I really, you should look into it, because I think you would do amazing. having a channel just for that.
We'll have to think about it. Right now, I've got so much going. See, now there I am, putting it on the back burner, right? But eventually, I want to get everything done to where we can. It's just, yeah.
Well,
That is an idea. I mean, and
you
I'm
need
hoping
to go-
that, like I said, we can get life change started down here. I can get to be a part of a program down here because that truly does help me being able to reach out and help somebody else. Every time I see someone else change their life around, I breathe a little easier because I feel like I did a lot of damage in this world in my few years. So I have a lot of
Jeff is
fixing
on
to
an
do.
interview with Susanna.
Start the Sunday service, Jeff, on YouTube.
And see, and my old pastor in Missouri there that helped me start Life Change, even at the church, they tried to get me up there to preach. They were like, I think you're supposed to be a preacher. I'm like, I don't think so. A preacher can read right and can spell right, right? I can't do that, y'all. So reading things, very hard for me. So I've read the Bible front to back 3 times. It's actually how I started learning how to read as I got older. But that took years. So I don't know.
You know what you are?
Yeah.
You're a disciple.
There. She said, yeah, we need to, she said, do it.
All right, Jeff, I know that Ella's got to go, but thank you again so much for being here. You taught me a lot. I've learned a lot. I'm sure people in the chat also, they have been very active, and I'm just going to say, we'll be back with this. And I'm doing 4 to 5 months. I'm coming back to and see where you are. So.
Well, thank you for having me up, and you keep your smile going, and y'all go over there and see Miss Ella. She's about to be live.
Exactly. She's going to be on Johnny's Hump Day. Hey, what are you doing at 8 o'clock tonight? You want to come and sell Melanie on my channel? Because Wendy Wonder Woman went on surgery, went to have surgery.
And what is today? Friday? Wednesday. What am I doing? I'm shipping.
Oh, well,
I'm working on. What time tonight? You said
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. You'll be done by 8? Okay. She said, yeah. Okay. Yep, I can do it. I can do shipping between
I'll send you the link.
All right.
Or around 7 o'clock. Jeff will be on tonight with Melanie and myself. Jeff will be selling his whatever he wants to sell.
Well, I've got coins and things, but I've got resale stuff for y'all too. So
there you go.
Like jewelry, if you like different things, I got it. I've been picking up some stuff.
Make it happen.
Right.
Guys, thank you so much. And if I did not say hi to you in the chat, I saw you, and I just want to say thank you so much for being here. This was amazing, wonderful. And on that note, we're going to go. Bye. Still here. Guys, there's still 24 of you. Go. There's somebody else. Go rewatch this if you want to. Come on. We'll be back later. And you're going to go see Ella, too. Ella's going to be on Johnny.
We'll see Mr. Johnny and them.
Yeah.
You don't want to see me hit this vape again. It's terrible. No.
It's okay. Don't worry, guys. We'll be back.
Bye.
Stars and back and what? What do I say? Angel tickle toes.
Yes.